Okay, I'm moving you over. Okay, you're in here.
Okay. Small introduction, Carlos.
Hi, thank you for having me here. This is Carlos Blanco. I work for USDA, and it happens that I see most of the petitions, permits, applications that deal with the movement of ants and importation of ants in the country. And this is very important for me and for my goal to have access to your questions and have a really good interaction.
Hey, Carlos, sorry, you're cutting in and out a bit. I'm not sure what's going on there. You could just leave the mic open if that's easier.
I think it is open. Let me double check.
If you're having trouble, maybe push to talk is the better solution.
Well, they're on mobile, so it's not really an option.
Voice activity up really high.
Yeah.
Is that, let's see, sensitivity?
Not out for me at all.
Let me just set.
Maybe it's the connection.
Yeah, is this dropping by chance? No.
No, you sound.
Sounds better.
What about I put push to talk on and I'm holding the button just to see. It just makes a big button.
Oh, does it? Okay. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
It works fine.
Sounds good.
Right. Okay. There we go.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Carlos Blanco. I work for USDA, and I'm the person or one of the persons responsible for reviewing the applications to move and import ants in the country. And soon we're going to be open for the petition process that later on we're going to touch base with that. And thank you for the opportunity to be part of this group because it's very valuable for us to reach stakeholders and make our regulations a little bit more understandable.
Fantastic. It's really great to have you here, Carlos. It's an awesome opportunity for us, and I'm really glad that you're willing to reach out to the hobbyist community as a whole.
My pleasure.
It's an absolute honor.
Yes.
So should we start with that first question there?
Yeah, please. At the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. I think that you are very interested about the petition process and the questions, and I need to give you a little bit of background.
Oh, yeah, we can start with that. Yeah.
Okay. This is the first time that we are going to do this to open for the petition process. USDA has experience with other types of petitions, but this is going to be unique. As I talk to you, we are discussing about what is going to be the framework of the petition. And just before I started as being involved in this channel, Armando and I were talking about all the holes that we already have that we haven't even thought about that. Having said that, there's going to be a very interactive situation. We are envisioning right now that before you file a petition, a kind of a official document, you contact us, and I'm going to give you the contact information, and then we can set up a phone appointment and have a conversation over the phone, and just to go over what your goals are, and we can give you an answer pretty much right on the spot if what you're planning to achieve is something that this petition process will allow. And then we can start talking about the type of document that we require, timeframes, etc.
Okay, fantastic. A lot of people were wondering about that, for sure.
One thing that I can tell you in advance, because I just spoke with the group this afternoon, is that we are thinking right now on species that can be distributed with throughout the country, without any restrictions. However, there's going to be also the involvement of the state regulatory officials. And so far, they have seen the list that we have published, but they have not seen what you may be requesting. So, for instance, places or states like California, North Carolina, and Florida, who are huge in agriculture, may have objections to some of the petitions. And there's going to be an interaction among all of us trying to reach an accommodation of what species will be allowed and which will not be.
Okay. Regarding that, the states will have. It's essentially saying that it's not the. It's allowed at the federal level, and then it's the onus is on the ant keeper community to understand and the state level regulations. Correct?
That's correct, because we all have to be in a kind of a happy medium,
Mhm.
because we cannot just impose federal law over the states, because that's actually not right. And also, as you will be aware later on, and probably you already seen this, biology and new findings may change the decisions. For example, new invasives or the taxonomy has been erroneous, and then we need to reconsider several things. So it's going to be a very interesting time, and I really encourage you to learn as much as you can about all the biology and ecology of your organisms that you're potentially requesting.
Mm-mm. Okay.
Anything else on that petition system, or do we want to go on to the lovely? I don't know which question. If you actually want to tackle the termite one.
No, not the termite yet.
Okay. Here, I'll give you this list.
Ready? There is another
Just-
question about if Pogonomyrmex occidentalis could be shipped across the whole country. And this person says, since I am in Pennsylvania, and Pogonomyrmex occidentalis, of course, is a Western species, will still be able to ship to Pennsylvania? That's exactly the idea of this non-regulated list that we have now, that we have been discussing this limited number of insects that can be moved now throughout the country, the whole continental US, without the need of a permit. For that, specifically for Pogonomyrmex occidentalis, all the state regulatory authorities have agreed that this particular species is okay to be moved throughout the country without a permit, beginning on August the 9th, yes.
And that includes the queens, because somebody's going to ask.
Correct, yes. Armando also reminded me that, yes, it's going to be for the whole colony, reproductives and non-reproductives.
So we're reading that.
Is there just
Go ahead.
Out of curiosity, what went into that decision? Is it because of the widespread usage through Milton ant farms, or have they been deemed to be completely benign to plant life and local wildlife?
It's a little bit of both, Hendrik, because to be honest with you, we start thinking about this list in the past literally 2 decades. I'm not joking. This list has been in the works for 25 years.
Wow.
And so far, nobody has objected to this species. And some of the considerations, as you mentioned, is because the widespread and because we don't have any evidence that moving this species into another geography has caused any problems.
Okay.
And also, there's another thing that responds to another question, but is kind of part of what I was just talking about. I'm pretty sure that the petitioners, they need to be at least 18 years old.
Yeah.
And well, here is one tip. I know that we have several ant aficionados who have permits and who are minors, but the permit has been issued under one of the parents' name. So that's one of the things that we allow. So we know that this ant colony is going to be in a house, and the person really keeping the colony under containment is a minor, but the parent is signing the petition. It's something that we have in the regulations, and there has to be somebody 18 years or older who files for an application, and I'm pretty sure that is going to be the same situation for a petition.
Okay.
Follow up. Yep, go ahead.
You keep saying the species on this list, plural. Are there other species aside from Paganomamex occidental?
Well, there are, but they're other plant pests. So there's a link to the list in there somewhere.
Just for clarity, because that wasn't very clear, what Frank was asking was if there are other species other than Poganomermix occidentalis that are on the list. Just doing this for the recording.
That is the only ant species in the list.
I see.
So the other question that there was, basically what the petition process was, what kind of information would be needed on it, and whether or not there are any fees associated with it.
The information necessary to understand the situation has to be kind of robust. I'm talking about, for example, the known distribution. It has to be local ant. I mean, I'm local, talking about an ant widely distributed within the US. And the nice thing about it is that we don't charge any fees for that.
Mm-hmm.
If I understand correctly, APHIS charges no fees even for the interstate movement permit, right?
Correct. Other divisions of APHIS, they have fees, but us, we don't. So you can, even if you don't make it into a petition, but you just want to move these other ant species from state A to state B, you can apply for a P526 permit, and there's no fee associated with that.
Fantastic.
So there's a couple questions about how it'll affect ant sellers in Europe. I don't know that our regulation will directly affect them in Europe.
I think the question there pertains mostly to export out of the country.
Exporting ants from the US to another country?
Yeah, that's one prong of the question. The other prong of the question would be ant sellers in Europe would have potentially exotic species that are benign to local wildlife, and the speculation is that they could be under the purview of the petition process to be eligible to make the petition exempt list.
Well, the first part of the question that I already forgot about it.
Okay, the first part of the question is they wanted to know export out. Yes.
Okay. Yes. USDA doesn't have any regulations exporting insects into other countries. You don't need a permit.
That is handled by Fish and Wildlife, though, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's another agency that'll handle that.
Okay, and obviously for responsibility. Oh, please go ahead.
Importing ants from other countries, that is going to be a possibility, but a remote possibility, because we are going to think that these ants are exotic. They are not established in the US. And for that, you will need a permit, not a petition that will allow you to move them freely throughout the country. but you can file an application and get a petition to import an exotic ant into your laboratory, into your house, because we have done that many times. And
Okay.
for that, it only requires for us to verify that your conditions in your house or in your laboratory are, you have escape proof conditions, that the ants are not going to escape once that you receive them.
Could you speak to that a little bit? What would qualify exactly as escape proofing for a hobbyist environment?
Well, for example, let's think that you have your formicarium,
Mhm.
and it's pretty much tight for any escapes, because of course you don't want your ants to escape from it. You pay a lot of money and yeah, nuisance. And you can have your formicarium, let's say, in your room, and your room, the only window that the room has is totally shut down, so it's totally caulk and seal.
Okay.
And you can install barriers around your door, and like you use for any other formicarium or
Yeah.
receptacle for ants, you can use Vaseline or fluorine or any other substance that will repel ants.
I see.
And that, then you will have your house closed all the time, and you're not going to allow many people to get into your room. So many measures that you can install
Yeah.
to prevent the ants going anywhere but keep being inside of the formicarium.
Okay. The speculation within the community was specific for the petition process. As you said, it's not very likely that exotic ants would be. There's two aspects to that. So I guess I'll start with one first instead of bombarding you with it. The first speculation was that completely benign, very specialized species like cephalotes would be potentially able to make the exempt list because of the very specific conditions that they need to survive. Cephalotes specifically being the needing a certain type of beetle and specific wood types to be able to take hold where they exist natively. So there's no chance that exotic species that are extremely specialized would be able to make the list?
It may be difficult, but you can think also on getting a permit.
Okay.
So even if you are a distributor, a seller, if you are planning to sell these ants later on into to another person, and the other person has a permit, then you can be legally trading these ants.
Okay, fantastic. The second,
a permit can be the answer to that.
Okay, great. That's just what I wanted to know. The second aspect to that was you know what? I forgot the question. Anyway, we can continue.
Could I say something real quick or ask something real quick?
Go ahead, please.
If an exotic species were to, like Harpangathos, Saltador, and Venator, they're fairly extensively used and studied in labs in the U.S., from what I understand. Would that have any bearing on potentially making like that specific genre or species easier to acquire or easier to get
I don't know if it's going to be easier to obtain a permit. Pretty much we have the same kind of bar for all the ants. Okay. We are not really thinking like, well, these are smaller ants or more mobile or more vicious, or they have a wider diet. So it's like from this receptacle, we are very sure that these ants are not going to escape. And if they escape, the petitioner or the applicant has installed other measures to keep the ants from spreading. And from that, the room where the ants are, we know that there are several barriers to prevent the ants from escaping.
Okay, there is a very large concern in the ant keeping community about potentially illegal buyers and sellers moving ants that can breed within the nest. Does that not is that taken into consideration when permits are handed out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there's a couple questions on the list that says some things say continental U.S. Some things will have a stipulation like that. And there's a couple questions if there's a way to get something petitioned and approved. There's a possibility that it'll be narrowed. So could it only be in the desert states? Could it only be in specific geographical regions?
I was asking that to the group and at work, and that included my supervisor. And again, because we are kind of new on this, right now the idea is that no, it has to be, at least at the beginning, species that can be approved for the whole contiguous U.S.
Okay.
Not just Arizona and California, because that will make a very fragmented situation and probably more work for everybody.
Okay. On that note, for the species that would qualify for the petition process, Aravanto asks, have there been any rumblings about other species, ants or otherwise, that may be added before or shortly after these regulations become live?
Probably the list is not going to be updated often, because again, took us a couple of decades just to put this list out. That's why we have the petition that from time to time we are going to notify the general public, like now this species is allowed for movement throughout the country without a permit.
Okay.
I think that would be the route. Instead of updating the list, is going to be on the petition, individual in species in a petition.
Okay.
Is Wayne involved in this deregulation process?
Yes, he is. Yes, he's part of the group that I was referring to.
Wait, you mean Wayne with Antweb?
Wayne with USDA PPQ.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Wayne Wheeling is his last name.
Oh, all right.
I have a question, a quick one. May I ask?
Sure.
Please.
Well, I had this question about what does one do when a colony produces exotic elites. You have an exotic colony and it gets to the point when you have an optional flight system, for example. What does one do in that case? Thank you.
So if your colony produces reproductives, what are
Okay.
you supposed to do when you have a containment environment?
You're talking about if you try to share that colony with other colleagues, or just your colony grew so big that you cannot contain it anymore?
When a colony gets so big that it starts producing elites,
Yeah.
what does one do? If it's exotic.
Yeah. So the concern is that if it's an exotic, well, I think you understand. Sorry. Please go ahead.
What was it?
So just for clarity,
I'm getting cutoffs now like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the server or is it us here?
I think it's you guys.
Oh no.
Okay. The question was essentially, does an exotic colony within the United States that's under the purview of a permit that's already been approved, will the reproductives have any bearing on what an individual ant keeper should do with the colony? Is there anything that changes in that situation?
No, I cannot tell you anything that we have a limit of number of reproductives or the size of the colony, except that once that is allowed into your containment facility, being an exotic ant, you have to keep it there. It will be up to you to manage the size of the colony.
Regarding, on that note, regarding educational permits, where these colonies need to be moved around, for example, to schools and such, what is the process? What are the concerns, and what is the process there?
Usually, for educational purposes, we say that non-reproductives should be moved.
Okay. So in that case, if you have an entire colony, you would only move the workers for educational purposes?
Correct.
Oh, wow. All right. I had no idea about that. That's actually really important for the wider community to understand. Thank you.
I have
Go ahead.
I have a question regarding ants that are spread over the entire US. Don't you have any concerns about intraspecific homogenizations? Because in Germany, we're always getting told that, like, if I collect Laces niger from Berlin, I shouldn't release it in Stuttgart because their genes mix up, and it may actually produce issues like susceptibility to pathogens and other stuff.
That is one of the things that we are very concerned, for example, on importations, that ants may come with pathogens or even parasitoids of ants that may go into another species. That's why usually for importations, they are allowed in a containment facility, while the movement of ants that are native to the country into another territory where the ants are known to occur, usually it doesn't require a containment, because we think that time has passed to spread any types of diseases or parasitoids that they will reach the whole range of the ant.
Okay,
So-
thanks.
I just want to clarify that any ants that are brought from between state lines as part of this policy should never be released. There are many reasons for that, some of which we covered here. But if you are doing kind of your job properly, the ants are not going to be escaping. Those genes are not going to be making it into the genetic populations that are local.
You are correct.
I wanted to kind of further, I've read in a myriad of places that you should never release captive or exotic of any sort of animal, ever, unless it's under extremely controlled circumstances. You should just, as a rule, not release captive bred or raised animals.
So just in the interest of time, because we're running up against our next meeting for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've got about, how much time do you got, Carlos?
Well, I need to walk to the other building, so probably have 5 minutes.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I want to get to one important one that I think Miles asked and a couple others did too, and that's with identification. So the identification of a specimen, how that plays into this petition process when someone's moving something around. And I'll just give an example because a lot of people ask about Tetramorium, and I'm going to throw the same community under the bus, but they call everything Tetramorium immigrants. It's in the United States. And the complex is really difficult to sort out. So in those cases, has there been anything that we've kind of planned as a contingency for that, or?
Okay.
Okay, no, we haven't worked out any contingency plan. Some of the ant species that are sold for educational purposes, we verified the taxonomy using the assistance of some of you on myrmecologists to let us know that exactly this is the ant species that this company or this vendor is moving. But now that this will potentially open many other avenues for ant trade, I think that we also need to think about how we're going to control or verify what Armando just said, that sometimes it's very difficult to pinpoint the exact species that you are moving.
Okay, since we only have 5 minutes left, I've scanned the rest of the questions, and I would just like to get to some of the most pertinent ones very quickly. How can we a lot of the community is worried that this is one-off, that we won't be able to petition questions and get answers, especially very important questions that we truly wish to be able to clarify and get the final word on so that we can do things in the best way possible. Will we be able to petition questions in some way in the future, and what would that process be like? If you could speak to that briefly while we still have time.
Oh, sure. One of my responsibilities at work is doing exactly what I'm doing now, and we can also hook through email. I receive several questions a day about not only ants, but different types of insects. I can also make my official contact information available for you. That can be one thing. And this is not going to be, I'm sure, the only shot. We're going to be interacting
Okay.
regular basis.
Okay,
And
fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that.
Feel free to send questions to me too. I can always compile them, give them to Carlos. He can have a list that way.
Yeah, the concern here is, I mean, there's 2,500 people in this Discord. If you kind of just post your email, you're going to get flooded. So
So maybe just use some filters, Carlos.
yeah, exactly. We'll manage that. That's fine.
Well, Armando has been instrumental on all this, and probably he can advise me what to do and what not to do, and really help me with managing technology, because as you know, I'm fish out of the water with.
No worries. We try and make things as easy as possible, and we really don't want to bug you. I mean, I can't understate how grateful the community is to that you're willing to reach out and even talk to us on this platform, and just provide your insight and your expertise.
It's my pleasure, and I'm here to assist you.
Okay, a couple more really pertinent questions. There's been talk in the community about what species would potentially make the permanent exempt list. Certain species that are across the entire range of the United States, such as Teponomas sessile, Camponotus, Pennsylvanicus, and extremely benign species such as Myrmecocystus, which is not able to. It's just. Could you speak to any potentials that you guys could see that would be able that the community could start compiling resources and maybe approach as a good first attempt at the petition process?
I think those three species Armando already told me about are ideal for kind of initial petition.
Okay.
And we have been thinking, I mean, the Department of Agriculture, right? Mainly agricultural pests. So we have been devoting most of our conversations about really insects that eat our crops. And we know that ants sometimes can be troublesome in agriculture, but not as much as some of the worms and bugs that we see in the field. That's why I cannot give you a really definitive idea or a clear guidance on which ants may be more likely, but what you just mentioned, especially Pennsylvanicus, it may be an ideal organism to start the first petition.
Okay, all right. We can definitely put that together as a community and try and comb through the available research and see that we can't make a case for that. The last really pertinent question that we kind of had on this, what kind of time frame would what kind of turnaround time would the entire process take? Like how long could the community expect from the time that we submit all the materials and try and get as much as we can together to it being officially announced as making the list?
I cannot talk about that yet, not because I can't, but we don't have any clue. Honestly, some of the groups within USDA, they have kind of solid guidelines.
Okay.
And hopefully we are going to have some of that. This is not this petition process, but other divisions of USDA, for example, if you file a petition, within the next 2 months, you will have an answer, at least to say that your petition is complete. All the information that we need to reach a decision is in your document.
Okay.
So that kind of triggers another deadline.
Okay. Well,
Right.
the reason that the question is asked and that people are very, very curious is because, as you said, this took 2 decades to kind of roll this out. Maybe you could speak to the magnitude of the timescale. Are we talking like a year, 5 years? And just any guess would be helpful.
I think a year will be kind of reasonable.
Okay.
Well, don't get discouraged, because again, if you file for a normal application, usually a permit, you will have a decision within the next 3 weeks, or you will have a permit within a month.
And I want to bring on something on that, because we're running out of time. This is a very important question a lot of people have asked. There's this conception that permits are kind of only for people in the know at universities, researchers. You can't really get a permit otherwise. It's kind of an exclusive thing. It's very difficult. So that conception is really prevalent within the ag community.
Thank you for bringing that, Armando. No, it's not. Just yesterday, I got an email from this lady who said, my son wants to get this sting box. So obviously she, the mother, hopefully over 18 years old, she will be the responsible for filing for an application. And she's just the mother, and she's not an academic. She's not affiliated with any institution. She just wants to have a permit for her son to have a sting box. And that's totally okay.
Okay, I mean that's really fantastic that it's pretty widely accessible to the wider community. This has been like incredibly enlightening, and we will be very. I'm going to make sure that a lot of this information is disseminated and spread throughout the community, so that we can get all these things that you've made very clear today out there. Just so that we can just make sure that we're doing everything the best way that we possibly can.
Thank you, Hendrik. Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for allowing us to reach your members.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you for your time. It's been an honor.
Thanks, Carlos.
Muchas gracias, Carlos.
Yeah, this has been
Thank
so
you,
cool.
Carlos.
Thank you, folks. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye bye.
So I got to ask you a question, okay?
Yeah. What's up?
I thought about something. You know, you're saying about Carlos getting bombarded with emails.
Yeah.
See how we got the Ask the Myrmecologist section? Maybe change it. Maybe change that to like Ask the Carlos, or maybe make another one.
Ask the Carlos.
No. Listen.
No. You're right. We've actually already done that.
We could use bot commands and use a bot to actually compile all the different messages to different addresses into something like a voice, something like a written.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, you want it to be visible to everyone, so we don't get repeat questions, and like that, people can vote on the questions, so you can compile them, and then you could just send, like, for example, 10 to 15 questions to him via email. Only one email though, instead of 100 people emailing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll be firm questions.
Just as spoilers, we've had an Ask a Permit Expert channel for like the last 3 weeks. It's just been hidden. So yeah, that's planned.
Perfect.
Well, there you go.
Not to mention, it's more useful.
Yeah.
No. The real question is, so what kind of barricades are you going to be using on your room?
All right, guys. So
go ahead, Miles.
all right. So internet's very expensive here in Madagascar. I'm going to have to get off here soon. I just wanted to make kind of a quick statement here. I've been really happy to be a part of kind of internal discussions going on, related to this issue about ant permits and potentially deregulating some species. It's very exciting to see this. You know, I've been a part of the ant community for a little over 10 years now, and we've never seen this kind of engagement from USDA. And it really is a phenomenal kind of leap forward for us. I hope everyone understands how serious we need to take this, and that kind of the way that we move forward after this discussion and in further discussions will really kind of chart a path for ant keeping in the United States and then probably around the world for decades to come. So this is a very serious issue. We can't screw this one up. It's also very exciting. And I'm glad that we all get to be a part of that.
Yeah, I
do want to say...
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I can't understate how lucky we are to be able to, like, the fact that we've got, like, Armando and Carlos are in, like, the pro hobbyist camp. Like, we are incredibly lucky that things happen this way.
I can tell you...
Miles, please go ahead. I know you guys don't have a lot of internet, and it's really costly.
Yeah, so I just want to say, you know...
You cut out one more time?
Miles, can you hear us?
Yeah. I think the push to talk thing just wasn't working. Okay, last thing I wanted to say here from the California Academy of Sciences Ant Lab in Madagascar. I'm very happy to act sort of as an ambassador to the world of myrmecology and the science behind this stuff. It's, you know, I've been working with Carlos and those folks kind of quietly on ant identifications and kind of policy related to ant biology. And I just wanted to say that, you know, not only am I not the only researcher who's interested in assisting with this, but I'm happy to help you guys as we move forward with the permit process in providing the relevant biological information necessary to have successful petitions go through with this process. Hopefully everybody heard me on that statement.
Yeah, it came through loud and clear.
Loud and clear, boy.
All right, take care, you guys. I'm looking forward to chatting more once I'm back stateside.
Okay, take lots of photos, Miles.
See you then, Miles.
All right.
Enjoy
All
your
right,
trip.
take care.
See ya.
Later, Miles.
Okay. Well, that went pretty well. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, that wasn't quite as much time as I thought we'd have, so we kind of had to rush towards the end. But it sounds like we're going to be able to set up another one in the future, and hopefully have like a lot more time. I thought we had until like my understanding was the Q&A session wasn't going to be until like the 9th, so I was planning on putting the question thing up and we could get like tons and tons of time to get lots and lots of questions out. I think we had like a little under a day to put this together, so hopefully the next one will be a lot more comprehensive and answer more questions, though this one has been incredibly enlightening, and you guys have been great, by the way. I'm really glad that the community as a whole was able to like come together, ask good questions, make sure that we get the right answers that we need.
I just wanted to say that this was awesome. You guys all did really well. Good job.
It will be nice we could squeeze
as
more
you were
people
saying
in.
as you were saying before, so as well with even Miles was saying about getting the permits done. It will create a domino effect around the world, really. Like once America's on with it, you'll get countries like Australia that will go on with it if they see a bigger country accepting, you know. Especially you guys probably have stricter laws than us.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know about that. You guys. I mean, like you guys can't even transport fruit to Western Australia because of your quarantine.
Yeah, that's true. But like the East Coast, at least all the East Coast can deal with each other.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like you guys don't even have that. You got one state and that's it.
Yeah. So I mean,
I don't even know.
Just so that's we can't understate. I mean, Miles touched on this briefly, but it's crazy serious. I mean, this affects the entire ant keeping community, and as a server, like as the community building up the Discord, the subreddit as part of our outreach, and the wiki now, it's all kind of been building up to this, and being able to like do this the right way. So it's incredibly important that we do things to the best way that we possibly can.
100%.
Right on. We can hope.
If we do get permits, the Floridians are going to be so flooded.
What do you mean?
We've got all the cool species.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's good for you guys, eh? You could just mark them up a bit.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna stop the recording here, and I will upload it immediately, and it'll be transcribed by YouTube, and I'll post the transcription as well. If anybody wants to come through it and post notes on the whole thing, that would be really helpful, because we need to have the transcription available for citing in the wiki. So like if anybody could, that would be really helpful. All right, stopping it here.